Welcome back to the Cutty and Govy show. We're down here at Stella Mix in Delray Beach, Florida. Govy, how are you?
Doing good.
Govy's looking really tan. The weather here in Florida is what we call Chamber of Commerce weather because we've broken the heat wave. We're under 90. Today was 89. Anyway, every week on the ride over, I say, Govy, what are we going to talk about? But this week we do have a lot of stuff, and it doesn't include Hunter Biden. It's all this stuff.
That's true.
Right. There's lots of stuff. So let's start out with the debate. Govy, unfortunately, my guy, Tim Walz, W-A-L-Z, no T, wiped the floor with Vance. Vance came off, in my opinion, as a very slick Wall Street, Yale-educated lawyer. And Walz came off, in my opinion, as a very common man. He was in Congress 12 years. He's second-term governor, carries a shotgun in the back of his truck to kill pheasant on the way home. I guess when he's driving down the road, he sees a pheasant. He jumps out of his truck and puts about 10 shots of buckshot in it. I don't know how he cooks that up. But, Govy, what do you think? Who do you think the winner was?
Well, first of all, Happy New Year to you. Lashana Tova to you. Go Israel.
Thank you, Govy. You too.
So, as I was saying, I think that Waltz reminds me of Uncle Sylvester of the Addams Family. And when he turned his head to look at Vance at every time, it was funny the way his eyes bugged out. But here's a guy that this is what I take away from him. He called himself a knucklehead. The future maybe vice president of the United States, when he got caught in a lie and he couldn't get out. Like, very rarely.
Why couldn't he say I lied? Can't you just say that?
He should have.
I was young, I was stupid, I lied.
But they gave him enough rope that he hung himself because this is like the fourth lie. And he didn't know what to say, and he finally just said, I'm a knucklehead. Well, who wants a knucklehead to be vice president? I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now that you don't need him. You know, first of all, he went to China 30 times. It's now down to 15, because he knew that looked
But don't
bad.
you think he held his own? It was a draw.
He got destroyed.
You think he got destroyed?
He got destroyed.
Boy, I just don't see it that way. I thought that Vance came off more prepared, but it felt like he was prepared. It felt like Vance was reading a script, where Waltz was like completely unprepared because maybe he's not doing interviews or whatever the case may be, but he came off, in my opinion, as more real. Look, it's very hard to defend Biden's policies right now. You have inflation. You have all the problems of the world's burning up, which we'll talk about today. It's very hard to defend all that. He had to walk a fine line. I thought he did a decent job.
Well, do you think that the debate was fair? So Vance was called on the table, by the way, for things that he said that were true. So when he mentions the Haitians in Springford, Ohio, they were quick to say that they were legal status. They were legal status because the Biden administration and the Harris administration, they made it where you could just check a box and you become legal temporarily. But meanwhile, they're flying in 300,000 Haitians are coming into the country. But when Waltz made a comment like, there were more people crossing the southern border under the Trump administration than the Biden administration, and they don't fact check that at all. That's where you just have to, right there, you just say, okay, it's in the tank. They already...
Well, I'm going to take the other side of this, Govy. I mean, these guys know it's going to be in the tank, the Vance-Trump team, and they have to come to the debate like Vance did, prepared to argue with the moderator and say, the rules were no fact-checking, and you just fact-checked me.
So that's your answer is they have to know that they're going to be taken advantage of.
Yes.
Now, is that what the American people want it to be?
But why take the debate unless you have a realistic expectation that it's going to be in the bag? You're going to have to defend yourself. And I think what Vance did, and I'm defending him here, was right. He attacked the moderator, and that's what Trump should have done. In fact, to the point where I even said, Donald, don't do this debate, but if you get in trouble, stand up and walk out. and he should have done that.
Well,
Vance should have said that to the lady.
Well, what
you
you're
fact check me again, I'm walking out.
What you're basically saying is, here's an analogy. Me and you are going to play tennis. We're going to get in a tennis match. And I'm preparing it to go against you. And when we get to the tennis court, it's singles, and all of a sudden you hit.
And there's mud on my side.
No. You all of a sudden hit one down the alley, and you're in the doubles, the alley. And all of a sudden they called it fair. And I'm like, wait a second, this is singles, that's out. And they're like, no, he gets the alleys and you don't get the alleys. So now you're asking me to play you tennis, you get the alleys and I don't. And I think if you're going to tell me that there's no fact checking, there's nothing, if you're telling me that that's what the game is, I'm going to practice hitting to the side tees and not hit the ball through the alleys because that's out of bounds. I didn't know that you get to hit the alleys. That's unfair.
But we have a mutual friend. His name will go nameless, Arnie. So every time you sell him a watch, you have to remove an organ.
Right.
Now, he comes in, and you have this expectation that you're going to lose an organ if you want to sell them.
I have no more organs, Arnie. You're on to my nephew's organs. He's now doing with my nephew.
But I'm just saying, there is an expectation. Vance has to go into these things assuming it's a rigged deal. And I'm so sick and tired of the whining and the moaning of Trump and Vance. This is the deal. You're running for president. You're running for vice president. It's going to be a rigged deal. That's the press is against you. All these opponents.
Well, one thing he has going for him. So let's just start off with. How about we start off with the strike at the Dockworkers?
Great issue.
Okay. So now Harris and Biden administration knew that this was brewing a long time ago. A lot of people would say, why didn't you try to address the situation in June?
Well, nobody is going to settle the way these unions, because I was a union guy my whole life. I mean, being in the home building business, we had union contractors. Everybody takes you to the 12th hour. Nobody's going to settle anything 2 months in advance because they don't have leverage.
Well, it's funny, but the automobile industry, because they're telling you that you might not get parts or tires.
These guys are looking for 50% raises. How are you settling that?
But here's the part. The automobile industry, Toyota, I think it was Audi, it was I think Ford. There was several manufacturers of cars. They thought this was coming. They said that they prepared. So they ordered all their stuff in the summertime knowing this day was going to come. So they actually have weeks and months built in that this strike could happen without it affecting them. Now, did other businesses do that? Not quite sure. But it's the type of thing where their big thing isn't just the money. It's the automation that they don't want. They don't want technology to come into play. So basically, we were discussing earlier, when a truck comes in there, they still by hand have a person write down the license plate number rather than a license reader. And they thought that if you take away that job...
Two guys,
that's 2 jobs. They also said that if you use an easy pass or any type of pass that goes on the highway that you don't have to stop at the toll, they're upset with that because that costs them jobs. Now, could you imagine living in a world today that if you took away, say, an easy pass, how about if you went to the supermarket and the girl, instead of just taking the food and swiping it over that dot and it rings up, how about if she had to hand do it and all of a sudden you're 10 deep in line? Your life would change. Why doesn't this guy just take a horse to work? Because there's now a car. You can't.
Well, what do you suggest they do?
Well, because every dock in the world right now is going to new technology. It's the United States is the only one.
So is the union mafia boss that lives in his $8 million house supposed to throw the towel in and say, all right, take 10% of my workforce away? Of course not. He's got to argue this point.
He has. It's something to talk about. Maybe they can take this job and put it into another, start training them for growing. There's, when sometimes you eliminate a job, there's another job that comes and you can grow. They're not saying just, it was very easy, I think, for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. I think when they stopped the Keystone Pipeline or also the mining in West Virginia, didn't they say that they could learn how to write code?
Yeah, code.
Go up to a guy that's been down in the coal mines for 40 years and say, go write code. So why doesn't he have that same approach to these people? Why can't Biden say learn a new trade?
Well, you're asking a union business agent who's 60-some years old, an old dog, learn new tricks. It's not going to happen. Not in, maybe in 10 years when you have another guy. But, the issue is you have these longshoremen that potentially can make $500,000 a year. That's a lot of money for a longshoreman. I'm not saying that the job isn't a valuable job. I'm just saying a police officer makes $80,000, a teacher makes $80,000, a longshoreman's supposed to make $500,000, and their argument is the company made a lot of money. Well, I think the reason the auto guys did okay was those were public companies that you could see the balance sheets, and the auto business goes up and down. And the auto guys get in trouble every 10 years. The ship guys don't get in trouble. So I think that's why the auto guys may be settled and the ship guys, the longshoremen, aren't. But the interesting fact is every day that they're out on strike is equal to a week of backlog. It takes a week to make up for that one day. So they've already been out 4 days. So that's equal to 4 weeks of recoordinating to get everything back together.
Okay, so right now we have this.
Give me your point of view, Govy.
My point of view is it doesn't make a difference what the owner makes. The employee can't sit there and say, I want to make because the owner's making money. The owner could have one of his cargo ships destroyed by a missile in the Middle East, in the Red Sea, and the employee doesn't lose sleep over it. The owner of the company does. But more importantly, Biden is in charge right now, and Harris. They are the people in charge. What are they going to do? What are their solutions? We have a major problem right now. Their solution is, let's just let them work it out and talk. Well, no one's even at the table right now. So how long, according to you, every day is a major deal.
Yeah,
so,
$5 billion.
So what happens if they decide to let this go for a month because it's the election and they don't want to do anything? Now, I'll show you what a real leader is doing. Governor DeSantis, immediately right now, called in the National Guard. He then decided that he waived all restrictions on trucks and weight limits in Florida, because that's why you see them weighing the trucks on the heavy loads and everything. Waived it all. He wants these trucks.
See, the personal injury lawyers love this. I mean, wait till somebody gets hurt.
But
they're going to sue everybody.
Well, he's coming up with a solution right now because let me tell you something. These people in Asheville, North Carolina, they lost everything. They need water. They need supplies. Somebody has to take charge on what do we do if this strike goes on. If his idea isn't the greatest right now, DeSantis can tinker it. He can move it a little bit, but at least he's coming up with ideas. What are we going to do? He's not sitting on his hands like Joe Biden is.
Well, Joe doesn't want to give up beach time.
Joe Biden doesn't even know where he's at.
He doesn't want to give up beach time.
Right.
He was on the phone on that hurricane thing for 2 hours. I'm wondering who he was talking to because there were no communications down in North Carolina and the hurricane. But go ahead, longshoreman. What is he supposed to do? What's Joe supposed to do? Put the Hagley whatever act in?
Yeah. He's supposed to say, you know what, guys, I thought you would.
How can he do that if he's a union president?
Because he's going to say, listen, right now we have some disasters taking place. There's the election coming up. I need you guys to have a cooling off period. I thought you would have done it on your own in June. I didn't want to have to do this, but you guys, no one's coming to the table. Now we're going to have a 80-day cooling off period.
Did you see that crazy union BA agent? The way he was, I'm going to cripple America. I'm going to bring it to its knees.
As he has, by the way, as he has his $6 million house in New Jersey, and he also has a house here in Highland Beach, Florida. So, I mean, by the way, he gets for every fish sold in New York, he probably gets 10 cents.
I'm going to tell him you said that.
But
I would start your car with a remote control tomorrow, by the way.
But yeah, so that's a solution that at least someone's coming up with ideas. I mean, Kamala Harris right now, I'll tell you what she's worried about. She's worried that her husband, who shows you how masculinity should be, just got accused of bitch slapping a girl because she put her hand on a valet person's shoulder. He slapped her and spun her around. This was also a guy who slept with his kid's nanny, and when he noticed that she was gaining a little bit of weight, he never thought that she was pregnant, and then had her have an abortion.
This is Kamala Harris's husband, everybody. Right. Evidently has a track record of adulterous affairs, getting a nanny pregnant.
That's why they got divorced. He got his nanny, the kid's nanny, pregnant.
But, Donald Trump is adulterous too. But, I will say he has never been accused of hitting a woman. I mean, I think if you hit a woman, the boundaries 100%, are broken.
But also,
this guy's a bad guy.
Also, Donald Trump doesn't go around there saying, I am the poster child for how men should be.
Yeah, masculinity.
I mean, no one's going up to Donald Trump saying this. I mean, we know what he is. So
what's she supposed to do? Leave him?
Who, Kamala Harris?
Yeah.
It's too late now. It's called batten down the hatches. Just like she had a choice. She could have gone with Josh Shapiro.
Well, she's no angel. She was with Montel Williams, in a threesome. They had Willie Brown, who was 60 years older than her. So she might have met her match in Doug whatever his last name is.
I wouldn't be surprised if that after the election she's not on a P. Diddy tape.
Boy, can you imagine if she's on a P. Diddy tape? But what is she... Realistically, what is she supposed to do with this guy now? What's incredible to me is like this Tim Walz. He was supposed to be vetted by Eric Holder. Who's Eric Holder? Eric Holder was the attorney general under Barack Obama. This brilliant attorney general who did that guns and what was that crap down at the border with all the guns and
Fast and Furious.
Yeah, Fast and Furious. How do these guys that are supposed to vet everybody, or at least tune up your campaign and say, look, you want this guy, fine, but these are the problems you're going to have. You want your husband, fine, but don't drape him out there, hide the guy in a corner because he's got some issues. I mean, it's unbelievable that they can't vet these guys out.
One thing she can do is, supposedly, one of their favorite shows was The West Wing. I would say she could go up to her husband and say, you know where you're sleeping? West Wing. His new address will be the West Wing. And that's how you do it. He lives in the West Wing. She'll be there. And that's how you settle. No one knows where Jill Biden. I'm sure she's not sleeping with Joe Biden right now.
Well, I love women, but, Kamala Harris has lost 92% of her staff because evidently she's a raging bitch. I mean, can you imagine if she's a bitch with her staff? Is she difficult with Doug over here, or, she's peachy clean with him?
She had her first decision that she made, being the president. Her first decision she made was choosing. It was between Walz or Shapiro. Shapiro delivers her this state called Pennsylvania, which is it. That is the.
But he's Jewish.
But the object was to win, and she would have won with him. There's Walz. This is who she chose.
But they need the Michigan
Palestinians. There'll be a guy that I kind of respect, Bill Ackman. I respect the guy.
Got it.
Pershing Capital.
Pershing Capital.
He sat there immediately and he said, one thing about Donald Trump, everybody thought they didn't know from Vance and maybe who he was. They got to know who he is. He came across likable. So they could sit there and say, Donald Trump knew this guy didn't say anything really nice about the guy. Matter of fact, referred to him as Hitler during that one time. But yet, he still knew he was the right guy to have as his right-hand person. Kamala Harris knew this guy. Here's this guy, Walz. These lies are ridiculous of what rank he was in the military. I
know. What's wrong with these
guys? Then he's talking about democracy. We want privacy. We don't do it. This is the guy that when Minnesota was burning or during COVID, he actually sent a team of paintball players that would, if you came outside, he would shoot you with paintball. This guy is a whack job kook.
But what's the strategy? Why'd they pick him? He was in Congress 12 years, 2-term governor, school teacher, regular guy. On paper, he looks real good.
He's left of her, and he's not that bright. And basically, she didn't want to lose to Josh Shapiro. That she's looking at.
That would have been an issue.
Here's the difference. Donald Trump is only going to be president for 4 years. So no matter what happens, he's serving 4 years if he wins. Kamala Harris is looking at 8. She's thinking, this is 8 years. I want to win. And she's thinking she doesn't want Shapiro where there'll be rumblings. She just watched how quick they got rid of Joe Biden.
Right.
It was like, boom, the people met and they said, by the way, Joe, you're out. She didn't want that to happen to her. Josh Shapiro, people would think, Kamala, you're horrible. You're doing a lousy job being president. If a war broke out, maybe they would tell her step down.
In 4 years.
In 4 years. So that's one. She didn't want that. And by the way, with Walz, nobody is saying step down afterwards.
But let me break the news to you. The Jews are very unpopular in America right now, and Shapiro's a Jew. And he is a big proponent of Israel. And I just think he's on the wrong side of a presidential ticket. A Jewish guy can't be on that ticket.
You know how quickly things can turn? Benjamin Netanyahu, Bibi, all of a sudden, the people of Israel and Jews around the world, they wanted him to step down. They wanted him out in the worst way. And all of a sudden, today, 3 months later, he comes up with that greatest coup with the walkie-talkies and the pagers in the history of the modern day history. And all of a sudden, he's loved. So right now, if Bibi goes into Iran and takes out their nuclear weapons.
You think he's really going to do that?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, this is the opportunity.
Why is Joe Biden saying don't do it? Don't.
He said don't for a year. He kept saying don't. And everybody did it.
But why are they going to let him get a nuclear weapon?
Because they don't have. Why are they going to let him?
Yeah, why doesn't Bibi say, look, I'm giving you, 60 F-22Xs jets. Go take them out. We don't want Iran having a nuclear weapon. Why are they stopping that? I don't understand.
But because they were stopping Israel because they were in charge. They controlled the purse strings of Israel. Bibi now isn't listening to Joe Biden.
But I'm saying, why is Joe Biden not want Israel to take out nuclear weapons
because
as a threat to the world?
He still believes that he can go up to Iran and say, look, I gave you your money. I gave you more money. Please, can you not have nuclear? And he thinks if he's nice enough, they will do it.
You think that's because of Barack Hussein Obama?
By the way, the first thing he did is he took
Hussein Obama?
Yeah, he took the Houthis, he took them off of the terrorist list. That was within 3 days.
I don't get this whole thing.
So, and Kamala Harris, if you think she understands the Middle East, I mean, did you ever hear her explain what the cloud is in the sky?
Yeah.
I mean, so she has no idea. Now, if Bibi does take out these nuclear weapons, I don't think the Jews would be disliked. Matter of fact, I think they might be popular.
Well, I think
I do.
I think everybody in the Middle East does not want Iran to have nuclear weapons. Kim Jong-un doesn't want
By the way,
Iran to have
Israel has taken out more terrorists in the last 2 weeks than the United States has taken out in 20 years. And these are people that killed Americans. So Israel is doing the work of the United States. And why the United States keeps saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't go in here. He told Israel, don't go into what? Rafah? And that's where our hostages were.
Well, when we were kids, there was a restaurant called Horn and Harders, which was like a buffet line restaurant. And you used to go to the front, and you used to take a plate from the machine, and another plate would pop to the top.
Right.
How are you going to fix this problem in the Middle East? Another plate, you get rid of this group of Hamas, and then you have Abala, then you have this one, that one. You have all these radical Islamists. How are you going to fix this world over there unless you annihilate it? I mean, Gaza, look at it now. I saw pictures of Gaza before and after. It's destroyed. So now all those people are gone. Now you have Hezbollah has 150,000, whatever, that they sent, how many this week to Israel, and the Iron Dome knocked it down. At some point, how does it end?
Did you ever hear when they say that you can have security by, force, by, you have to show, some...
Yeah, Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, okay, so, exactly. So,
peace through strength.
Right. So now let me ask you a question. If Donald Trump was president right now and this Yemen decides to take out cargo ships, because let's talk.
That would be bad news for Yemen.
So we have these, right. So we have these dockers, these workers right now. They're paying all this money. The cargo ships, by the way, can't use the Red Sea at all because Iran's hitting them. Yemen's actually firing on them. they're firing on the United States. Now, this would be Donald Trump. He would do what Israel did. He went in there and turned it into sand. And then he would say, okay, our ships are free to roam around, do what you want. That's what we do. And instead, this is Biden. Let's make nice to them. Let's tell them, let's play nicely. Meanwhile, cargo ships are taking the long way out. Everybody's paying more money. And you're dealing with a terrorist.
Well, the difference with Trump is when Trump says don't, the people understand what that means. When Biden says it, there's no muscle behind that word, unfortunately.
How about
Biden is just trying so hard to avoid World War III by not doing anything. Trump will avoid World War III, I guess, by blowing the shit out of these people.
What does it mean to you that when Israel pulled off this unbelievable story with going into when they went into Lebanon, and then they went and then they did the walkie-talkies and the pagers, and they did all this stuff. They didn't tell the United States. I mean, could you imagine if Trump was president and Israel would do that without telling Trump? Do you think Trump would go up to Bibi and say, "Oh, you did good," or do you think he would say, "If you ever do that again"?
I think Trump would ignore it, would let them do whatever they wanted to do.
He would know about it.
I don't know.
He would trust. I think Israel would trust him.
The problem was Trump had all those leaks in the White House. Remember all those leaks and everybody listening to his phone calls and Jared Kushner and all that crap? Maybe he would prefer not to know about it. I don't really know. But look, we're not going to fix, we need Jared Kushner to fix the Israeli stuff. We're not going to fix it. But maybe we should get on to like a really fun subject, P. Diddy.
We could do that. It's definitely a lighter subject than talking about the hurricane.
Well, yeah, I mean, the hurricane's terrible. Do you believe in global warming? Do you think this is happening because of global?
No. I think this was a storm, and the reason why
100-year storm that happens every 5 years.
But the reason
it happened last year in Naples, Florida.
Yeah, but the reason why they were caught off guard is this hurricane. They weren't thinking a hurricane was going to do damage to the mountains of North Carolina. So, they're not even thinking.
Why not?
There is no more town left. It's.
I know, but call somebody up. You have a watch store in Naples, Florida. How was Naples, Florida 2 years ago? It was destroyed.
No, it wasn't destroyed. They were able to build it back. And the governor, you have a good governor. This you can't rebuild. There's nothing there. They have no infrastructure. They have nothing.
Well, let me ask you this question.
And you're not sitting there rebuilding because you have nothing.
So for the 40
years, you have $750. Knock yourself
right. For the 40 years I was a home builder, I always had to, this was the law, put the utility lines underground. So if there's a storm, you don't have trees knocking everybody's power out because the utility poles are laying on the ground. You know the reason why all these utility poles are above the ground?
Why?
Because union labor. If they bury the utility poles underground, the union guys during the winter storms in Pennsylvania and New York don't have jobs to go put them back up.
Really?
Yeah, that's the reason that they haven't buried every line, because the unions don't allow.
So that's why countries like Japan have the bullet trains and everything else, because our infrastructure is
it's the most ridiculous union thing ever. So I'm going to start my car with a remote control.
You're a union buster now.
I'm going to start my car with a remote control tomorrow. But anyway, let's hit this Diddy. What do they call him? The diddler. The diddler. He's the diddler with 100 bottles of baby oil. I mean, now they have this Texas lawyer.
Thousands of bottles of baby oil.
They have this Texas lawyer, this ruthless guy that now represents, 120 people, some as young as 9 years old.
And many more coming. Many more coming.
So, what happens to this guy? I mean, who can he rat out on to get out of this deal?
First of all,
how's he get out of this deal?
he has to come to the realization that he's never going to see daylight again. And there's a lot of people that would like to see him deceased. I mean, people are nervous. Right now in Hollywood, there are people, music executives are nervous every night because they know if you listen to this lawyer yesterday that's representing these victims, He said not only do they have the tapes, they have the tapes of the people that were sitting around outside of a room where a rape was taking place, and they did nothing.
It's like that Jerry. It's like Seinfeld, where they got arrested. The last show of the entire thing, where they observed the crime and they got arrested because they didn't stop the crime. You're saying that's an illegal offense?
That's what I wanted to ask you. So
I don't know.
If you're at this party,
my Harvard law degree doesn't have.
Well, if you're at this party
and
it's your first time, this is your first time at a Diddy party, and all of a sudden you see these girls, you see naked girls walking around, but all of a sudden you hear someone in the other room yelling, "Stop! Stop!"
And it's Oprah Winfrey?
No, it's the guy that played the guy in that television show, the kids show. That was the male that's it was him. I mean, but, the question is, do you get up? Do you say anything? It's like, Denzel Washington always had the philosophy, you leave 30 minutes early. You always get out of a party early. So, I mean, listen, there were some young people there that couldn't say anything that are newbies. Like, Ashton Kutcher, maybe he was 22 years old.
So if you were there and you hear noise and you open the door and you see this going on, what are you doing? Govy, the Watch King.
I'm getting out of there. The question that I would have to question my own character is, I would have gotten out of there. I wouldn't want any part of it. The question is, who would I have told? Would I have just stopped by leaving there and saying, okay, I didn't want to be a part of it, left? Or would I be the proactive to say, I got to call the police and do that?
No, you wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't be that person.
No.
So I
be involved.
I wouldn't do that. So I would try to.
You're driving by an accident. You see an accident, and somebody's there. Are you getting out of your car and helping, or are you continuing to go? Let's say no police are there, no ambulances there, nothing's there, and you see, like we had in Boca 2 weeks ago, the two guys that interceded on that woman that was getting robbed, and they ended up getting shot.
Well, it's funny you ask that. This happened to me. So I was in the car.
I'm learning something about Govy.
I was in the car with my ex-wife. Maybe this. I was in the car with my ex-wife, and this motorcycle on I-95 zipped past us, going 150 miles an hour. It was like lightning.
To die.
And like he went past us, we were like, "Whoa, that was unbelievable!" Zigging in and out of traffic, and then all of a sudden, 10 seconds later, we see a puff of black smoke ahead of us. So we know that there was an accident. And as we're driving, because it started to slow down, the motorcycle is off to the side of the road with the guy on the shoulder. And
he was alive?
He was alive.
Hard to believe.
And as I'm driving past, I go, there he is. And I basically said, we're lucky that we're ahead of this, because this would really back up traffic for hours. And my ex-wife said, you're stopping, aren't you, to help him? And I said, it's dangerous if you get on the highway. It's dangerous. You always hear about people on 995 getting stopped because they're helping. She says, you have to. So I pulled off the side of the road and ran back 100 yards where cars were zipping by on the other side and to help. And we were taking off the helmet because there was blood in his motorcycle helmet.
You did that?
My ex-wife did. I didn't do it.
You could get sued for that.
And someone went up to her, and he was like helping. He gave his cell phone to her to call his mom, which my ex-wife did. But someone came up to her and said, you should leave right now because you could be sued for taking off his helmet.
Yeah.
And
they would say you broke his neck.
And I looked at my ex-wife and I said, see?
Yeah.
But,
But anyway, let's have fun before we get to your picks of the week. Your top 5 people that you think are going to get in trouble with this P. Diddy thing? Who's the biggest name? Do you think?
Well, how about if they cooperate?
Like but they're going to be exposed.
They're going to be exposed. So you want Justin Bieber?
He's the top?
He's the top because he was a minor.
Right.
So the question is, when you see him with girls, P. Diddy with his hand around them, basically getting them laid at 14 years old, and there's tapes, that's an open and shut case.
All right, Justin Bieber.
Ashton Kutcher.
It's 2.
Usher.
3. Usher's definitely part of it.
Yeah, Usher's 3. I would think that...
do you think Oprah Winfrey?
No.
Barack Obama.
No, I don't.
Mike Tyson.
No, but I think you might have. I think that you might have some Jay-Z and Beyonce problems.
Jay-Z, Beyonce.
They could have
Jennifer Lopez.
Yes. Jennifer
All
Lopez
right,
is,
so
yes.
this is.
But I think
Clive Davis.
Clive Davis, yes. I think there's a lot of.
How about some musicians like the Rolling Stones or
I
any
think
of those crazy guys?
Yeah, I think it could be like
back when they were doing heroin.
Yeah, I think there could be that. I think there's some music executives that we just don't know who their names
Tommy
are.
Mottola, head of Sony.
Maybe.
He was married to Mariah Carey.
Right, but there's could be
How about Adele?
I don't know if
Before she lost all the weight.
I don't think it would be Adele, but
All right, let me ask you this fast
LeBron
question.
James
before
was there.
We,
He has to say something.
He doesn't stand for the national
By the way-
anthem. LeBron, you lost me when you didn't stand for the.
Right.
We have kids over there with legs missing, arms missing, and you're making $100 million a year, and you can't stand for the national anthem. You're done with me. But let me ask.
But I do like Randy Mims, Rich Paul, and Maverick Carter.
Real fast, P. Diddy had that party out in the Hamptons called the White Party every year. And
I know where you're going with this.
Can I go there?
Yeah.
All right. So now Michael Rubin, Philly guy, Fanatics, took over where P. Diddy dropped off. I'm not saying he's doing anything other than he has that whole crew there, and it's called the White Party. If you were advising Michael Rubin, would you say to him, Michael, you're very successful. I don't know. You have 10, 20 billion. You have a franchise deal with NFL. Maybe this isn't a good idea, doing this whole deal because all these dudes are going down. Meek Mill, everybody's in trouble or part of it or smelling around it.
I think he has to be much more proactive on security, not just during the party.
But you would say continue the party.
But background checks. Meaning, like, he knows who's
Nobody would come.
No, he's getting.
You wouldn't sell any watches. You sell watches to everybody there.
But he's getting. But people that get this invitation, he knows who they are. It's a special invitation. How much are these invitations that you're getting?
Yeah.
I mean, they're crazy numbers.
Right.
I would have an investigative team to know every single person who's coming to my party.
Okay, so
what their background is.
Let's say you invite Jennifer Lopez and you investigate her. You're going to find all the stuff.
Well, no. I just want to know who they are.
Okay.
So you can only do so much. I'm not going to have tapes of secretly taping people, drugging people. So he's not doing anything like that. P. Diddy was drugging people, getting without their knowledge.
Michael, my advice is drop the party. Do something else. Take $1.5 million and go somewhere else with it. Don't have this party anymore.
But this is going to blow.
It's not blowing over. This is going to score
Hollywood
forever.
You got Ellen DeGeneres, by the way. Like I said, she's had P. Diddy on the show 20 times. So here's a question for you. That little DJ, music guy, dancer guy she had Twitch, he committed suicide. How do you know Twitch got a phone call from someone?
I'm sure he did.
And said, listen, Twitch, we got you.
Yeah.
You were in the other room. You didn't know it.
Right.
But P. Diddy had someone taking you from behind.
Yeah.
And we're going to expose you. I know you're married now, but unless you give us $100,000.
Happened to Ben Affleck.
Yeah. Go up and tell Ellen I need $100,000 or you won't be twitching too much longer.
Well, don't you think that's what happened, J-Lo and Ben Affleck? Somebody gave him the video of, 5 guys doing her or something.
There could be something there that's why they got divorced.
Yeah.
That someone said to Ben Affleck, I just want you to know this is breaking.
Right. Anyway, Govy, first of all, how'd we do last week on our picks?
So here's how we did last week on our picks. We ended up winning one game more than we lost.
So with the VIG, we're even.
We're still treading water, but we have lost so many games by half a point or a blown call by a referee or a field goal kicker who hasn't missed in 2 years.
That was
shanking
insane.
One. So sometimes luck goes the other way, and we weathered this. There's a lot of people out there that are getting killed. But my new thing, though.
So, would you gamble on sports anymore? It's just so corrupt. Or how does the best kicker in the NFL miss a chip shot?
I'm going to tell you
to
how you
make
can
the points. And the money, 80% of the money was on the side because he missed the points.
Right, but now here's the new way to make money gambling. I put some time.
I analyzed
this, put some time and effort into it. it's no longer us betting a team where it used to be when you made a bet, you either took a team and then you could go over and under. That was it. Maybe you could parlay it with another team, but you never had individual bets. You never said Saquon Barkley's going to have more than 60 yards in the first half. You never were able to make these type of individual bets, touchdowns, yards, catches, fumbles. You were just betting the team. I think today where the corruption comes in, that since everybody's betting those type of deals, you could just have one person plan it in an organization. It doesn't have to be a coach, doesn't have to be a defensive coordinator. It could be the person that serves lunch to all the football players every day, and they're there with the game plan.
They leak information.
And all I have to ask them is, tell me, I know your wide receiver's a little banged up. What's the game plan? And they could say, well, here's our game plan. We're going to start the game off by handing the ball to Saquon Barkley probably 80% of our plays and see how things go. Well, right away, I know, you know what? Let's take the over on Saquon Barkley getting more than 60 yards in the first half, because that's all I'm worried about. I'm not even worrying about if the Eagles are winning or losing.
Right, that's good strategy.
I'm only going by that because that's my inside information. Now, sometimes I turn up, like if you watch the last Eagles game, you turn off, they're throwing the ball 14 out of 16 times. We're down 21 points. We're punting the ball 4 times.
Defense was horrible.
If I would have known the game plan was that, like, by the way, do you know how many yards Saquon Barkley had in the first half? I think he had 5 yards.
Yeah.
Now, if someone would have told me, like, you know, hand the ball off to him, that was the game plan, I would have bet Saquon Barkley. If he would have said, so who do you have this week? I could sit here and run to you and say, I have.
Well, who do you have? We're running out
Well, no,
of time.
I was just going to say, if I said to you, because it's not really that fun, if I said to you, I have Justin Hebert passing for 220 yards. I have whatchamacallit, I got Devontae Smith for the Eagles getting more than 4 catches. If I gave you those type of bets, you would say, that's not meaty, that's not juicy.
Right.
I could say, yeah, and I also have New England, they're going to fumble the ball twice this week. People would say, you want me to bet on that? But if that's the inside information, if that's where your information's coming from, like your punt returner has a bad arm, you know, like,
it's always been that way. The mob always had inside info on.
Well, this is defensive backs. You could let you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, all you need to know is what's the game plan now.
Right.
Are you running? Are you passing?
Right.
What are you doing?
Right.
I would like that information.
Well, the problem is Nick Sirianni doesn't even know that.
No, he finds out during the game. He lost all power. He doesn't run the defense. He doesn't run the offense. He only does 4th down. Did you see what he did with 4th down the week before?
Yeah.
He went for it every single time and he lost.
What do you got, Gabby?
All
We
right.
have 2 minutes left.
Here's my picks for this week.
You run them off.
I'm going to run them off college really quickly. I got Syracuse plus 6.5 over UNLV. I got Pitt, University of Pittsburgh, minus 2.5 over North Carolina. I got Army minus 11.5 over Tulsa. Ole Miss minus 9 over South Carolina. Marshall minus 3 over Appalachian State. UConn minus 17 over Temple. And University of Florida plus 2.5 over University of Central Florida. They are my college picks. And just want you to know, UNLV is playing Syracuse. That was the one school where the quarterback and the other guy left the team because he wants to get paid more money. Now for my pro picks. My pro picks are the Chicago Bears minus 3.5 over Carolina. New England minus 1 over the Miami Dolphins. The Cleveland Browns plus 3 over Washington. And Seattle minus 6.5 over the New York Giants.
Is Tua done for the season? Miami? Quarterback?
Well, if they keep losing, he should be done because why come back to a losing team?
That's true.
They are horrible. They don't even have the backup quarterback. They don't have anybody.
Yeah, right.
They got no one. They got people fighting. Tyreek Hill's the most he was that you saw his name was when he was on the sidewalk with his hands behind his back.
That's funny. All right, folks. What a crazy show today.
Yep. We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week.
Happy New Year.